Hi guys, it's Stephen here from James Glenn Car Sales, and we are on episode 12 of the Jimmy Glenn car review. And this week we've got a bit of a brute. Yes, we've got the BMW F10 M5, not just the regular vanilla version, which is exceptionally good. We've got the full fat competition. Done a wee bit of reading just to find out exactly what the F10 competition pack car comes with, and it's quite a lot. I initially thought it was a tiny bit extra power, tiny bit lower ride height, and basically a nice set of wheels, and that was it, but I was wrong. Technical spec, now guys, forgive me if I missed the odd thing here, but got a quicker steering rack, we've got a louder sports exhaust, we've got these beautiful M light alloy wheels, we've got 20% upgrade, sorry, a 20% uplift in the spring rates and the damper, so the chassis is much firmer. We've also got a 15% uplift in the anti-roll bar stiffness as well, which keeps cars all nice, level and flat through the corners. So between the quicker rack, the tighter chassis, the louder exhaust, the wee touch extra power, and the nicer wheels with the lower ride height, that is a substantial upgrade over the standard car, and you can see why BMW charged £7,000 for it when these cars were new. They're also much more exclusive, which is always nice to have. This car is in Singapore grey. Now, initially it does look just like BMW's mineral grey, which in itself is not a bad colour, but it's not particularly special. But when the daylight hits this car, which I'm afraid we don't have any today because it's horrible and it's November and it's blowing a gale and pouring with rain, ideal for a 575 horsepower road test. However, when we do have sunlight and it hits this paintwork, it's got a nice blue through it, and the interior has been specced with Sakhir orange Murillo leather with the comfort seats. So it's someone has spent some time, considerable time, optioning this when it was new to be a very special car. So I will move myself out of the way and we'll get a look around. I think that has got to be one of the best ride heights, a factory ride height, of any sort of semi-modern car I've seen for a long time. You would, even if it was in your blood to start modifying a car, you just would not touch that. It is absolutely perfect. To the untrained eye though, from a distance, this really could just pass for a very nice looking 530D M Sport. You know, there's no shouty bulges in the bonnet, you know, like it's M3, M4 sibling. The body panels aren't pumped out. It isn't any wider than a regular F10. It's very discreet, and it is like the pinnacle of the uber ballistic executive missile, blending in nicely in the corporate car park. But then when the notion takes a hold, you can go out and wrap it up with supercars. Take your whole family along for the ride as well. No carbon roof, nothing, you know, nothing Gucci on the outside. It's really only when you move around to the back, you see the four pipes. We've got a rather pronounced diffuser on the bottom. This being a competition pack, it's got the black exhaust tips as well, which does make the chrome on the M5 model designation badge a little bit out of place, but nothing that a set of badges wouldn't fix. And then you go, oh wait a minute, what's that behind the wheels? And we've got these enormous cross-drilled discs. I mean, even the rears are enormous. What are we on in the back? We've got a 285 section rear tyre. This car's also on a Michelin Pilot Sport tyre all round, which is a phenomenal tyre. Prefer it to the PS4S, to be honest. So yeah, a huge big caliper doing the clamping force at the front, and another ginormous brake disc on the front. But given the fact that we're knocking on for 575 horsepower and also weighing in at just a whisker under 2 tons, probably by the time you put a full tank in it and stick a driver in, you'll be 2 tons. So yeah, I'm quite glad that it's got big brakes on it. Now you can spec these cars new with carbon ceramics, which is fantastic when it's a £100,000 car, but when these cars start dropping down to the sort of 25 grand mark, this one being a comp, it's a wee touch over that, would you really like the prospect of a potential £10,000 replacement cost for a set of carbon ceramics? No, of course not. So therefore, if you are looking for one of these used and you see one with ceramics, I would tread very, very carefully, because all you need to do is overheat these things and the discs will delaminate, or if you get a bit of gravel in between the pad and the disc, that's the end of the disc and you need to put a new one on it. So that would be a rather expensive experience, whereas with the old steels, we know where we are. Yes, you can break dust, yeah, you need to replace them, but it's much, much more palatable than putting a new set of carbon ceramics on the car. So in the interior, this is the Sakir Orange, and this also has the comfort seat upgrade. So we've got this additional button here on the adjustment, which allows for the backrest to split 2/3 of the way up, giving support to the shoulders, which is pretty cool. You can lengthen the base of the seat as well, which is pretty unique. 4-way adjustment, and then these wee buttons here inflate the bolsters on the side. But if anyone is familiar with BMW M seats, even in the M Light, like the M Sports, that feature has been around for eons. We've got BMW's tried and tested steering wheel there, which is lovely, and we've got the semi-analog, semi-TFT display over there, but we'll get a look at that closer in a minute. But overall, cabin is very, very spacious, very, very comfortable, if showing just a little bit of age on the dashboard architecture, but quite nice to have the screen actually integrated into the dash now. These screens do appear to just sort of float on top of the dashboard, but I suppose the size of the screens in cars nowadays, they've got to try and fit them in somewhere. So we'll get a wee look in through the driver's side. Got a closer look at the steering wheel and the dials. So yeah, we've got screens down here, which kind of finish off the analog section. I've always really liked this. This is called the black panel display, so you get all sorts of different information along here, depending on what's going on in the iDrive. So your navigation and things and your music tracks all come up along here. And then we've got our comfort, we've got our steering, suspension and engine settings along here, which you can configure using these buttons here. And then once you've got them in to your favourite settings, you can then save them as a preset M1 or M2. So these guys here, these aren't a preset from the factory, these are how you want the car to be set up. So you can have your crazy weekend mode, you can have your crazy but not too crazy, I've got the family mode, and then you can turn them off and just put the car into another, like a individual setting that you can do on the fly. But there we go. This is very, very spacious. I mean, I am only 5'8", so I do feel like a bit of a midget in these things. Oh yeah, bonnet. Let's get the bonnet popped before we get on to the cool start. Engine-wise, these are, I'm not sure if these were the first of the hot V setup. Now, if you aren't aware what a hot V setup is, if you can imagine you've got a V like that, and traditionally the turbos sit on the outside and then your inlet manifold sits in the middle, in the valley. And for packaging reasons and also throttle response, a lot of manufacturers went for the hot V configuration. So they've basically switched the flow of the heads around. Therefore, the intake's now in the centre of the V, where the inlet manifold used to be, and then obviously the intake's on the outside where the turbos used to be. That changes the sound completely from a traditional bi-turbo V8. Also, what makes this car sound very, very different from any other V8 is it's a flat plane crank. I'm not going to bore you to death, but basically, I'll try and keep it quick. If you were to look at a flat plane crank, a flat plane V8 crankshaft, it looks like a big chunky 4-cylinder because each opposing cord rod bolts onto the crankshaft at the same place. And if you had a traditional V8 crank out, you can clearly tell it's a V8 because it'll have 8 different journals for the crank where the cord rods all bolt on in different positions. Gives it more of bubbity noise that you would associate with a V8. This, well, these really don't sound like much else, to be honest. But anyway, we'll go on to how the car sounds and everything later on in the video. I'll give you a quick tour. So we've got our turbos under here. These are water to air charge coolers. These are your intakes. And in case you're interested, this is what's referred to as the S63 engine, which is based loosely on the original N63, which you would find in like a 550i, which apparently at the start of its production was plagued with issues. I'm not going to say these cars are perfect, and I would never for a moment recommend running something of this level without warranty, because all it takes is for a couple of small things to go and you will be feeling it in the pocket. Whereas you pay your £1,000 a year in round figures for your warranty and just go and enjoy the car. So there we go guys, that's the N63. Let's get the bonnet shut, get the microphone set up, get on to the cold start. Okie dokie guys, 4.4 litres of hot V bi-turbo cold start. Let's see how she sounds. Settle for a wee 10-15 seconds. You can already hear it sounds nothing like a V8. So gone is the dynamic red line like the old E46. It's just a static amber just at 6.7, and then that carries on to 7.2. Quite high revving for a V8 actually, 7.2. That's just up to 3000 RPM. Not hearing much turbo noise at this stage. Anyway, let's get out and see how it sounds under boost. Alright guys, so we are now out in the M5 competition, in the rain, in the wind. I'm not going to be surprised if I just jack this and try it again tomorrow, because in true form, tomorrow is due to be sunshine. Anyway, back to the car. So I'm 5'8", and I feel like a midget in a 5 Series. Mainly, that's the main reason why Julie and I have always went for a 3 Series. However, not everybody's a midget like me, and if you want a big comfy car, then the 5 Series is the one for you. But if you want a big comfy car, they can also do the split personality head case material, then the M5 is something you should consider. At this price point, what else have we got in the M lineup? We're looking firmly at an F80 M3. Roughly the same price. You'll get what you'll get, one of them for about high 20s. This is an M5 comp, so this is high 20s. But I don't know how they've managed to do it. This is the car that should be scarier. This is the car that you should be terrified of throttle openings and anything else other than perfect driving conditions. But this is the one I feel more comfortable sending on. I've always felt that the M3 of this generation always felt a bit too edgy for me. I know they did sort out quite a fair bit of that with the comp pack, but even a standard M5 is something that I feel a lot more comfortable going quick in, and that is probably, in fact it's primarily down to how these cars ride. Now, we're in comfort, we've got everything, engine, steering, dampers, all in the comfort setting. And right now, if I was on my way to work on a horrible Wednesday, rainy day like today, albeit I'm driving in the opposite direction from work, I wouldn't be getting jolted about. I wouldn't feel like I'm going to skid off the road at any moment. I'd get the stereo on, get my comfort seat in exactly the position that I want it to be in. and I would just enjoy the drive home, or the drive to work. Completely oblivious to the fact that we are sitting on a 570 brake horsepower head case, and I mean head case of a car. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to demonstrate some of that split personality today, albeit as I'm turning up the intermittents on the wipers. I'm not sure just how we're going to get on, but these cars, as well as all full fat M cars, for some strange reason the M2 OG didn't get this option. When we hit the traction control button once, we get MDM. Now MDM dials back the traction control. It will catch you if you completely run out of talent, but it will give you quite a bit of angle. One other thing that was worth mentioning that the competition pack car does have is it also has a recalibrated DSC, which means that the threshold at which point it will start to intervene is higher than the standard car. Does that mean that BMW have thought, yeah, the guys that buy the compact car, they're going to be more capable behind the wheel? I'm not sure, but anyway, we've got more slip angle, and we've got a quicker rack, we've got the stiffer suspension, we've got the stiffer anti-roll bars, we've got the louder exhaust, we've got the cooler, nicer wheels, lowered suspension. So yeah, this is going to be quite a package. And as I said earlier on, I was of the wrong opinion that the comp just had nice wheels and a wee bit lower suspension. We're not quite up to temperature yet, guys, and with an M engine, you've got to get everything up to temperature first. Forget about the heating being on, forget about the coolant. It's all about the oil temperature, and we want to see that moving at least to 80 degrees anyway. So back to the car, back to the kind of stuff that you'll use and experience every day, because you're not going to experience 570 horsepower every time you're out in the car. You just aren't. It's too much. So let's take in the cabin. It's very, very plain. It's very functional. We've got nice big buttons for the presets, nice big display for the climate control panel, which is a mixture of the LED display and all the buttons. We've got this lovely steering wheel, which has been done to death by BMW, but I don't care. It is still the best steering wheel that BMW have ever fitted. It's very retro-esque, but it's got all the mod cons, it's got all the buttons, not too many. The spokes are the right size, the wheels the right diameter, the rims the right girth. We've got lovely paddles, very, very delicate, nicely sculpted. Feels, yep, they're metal, they're not plastic, because the old M5 had plastic paddles and they were absolutely hideous. What else have we got? You mentioned earlier on about the clocks. So we've got two nice big sweeping analog clocks. We've got obviously the one on the left for the speedo with an indicated 200 miles per hour. These cars are limited to 150. With the limiter off, they'll do about 187 apparently. The old V10 with the limiter off would do 208 miles an hour, which I'm quite surprised because it had less power and less torque, but more revs, 8,000 RPM for this, as opposed to 7.2 in the F10. So back to the clocks, we've got two big nice dials. Underneath we've got spattering of digital readout, not digital, like screen, TFT display screens. We've got our range, our actual speed and a digital readout, and then we've the other side under the tackle, and we've got our chassis, steering and engine settings, and then either side we've got oil, temperature and fuel. So that covers the binnacle. Gearbox, we're on BMW's 7-speed DCT. Now, if you haven't experienced a DCT gearbox, it is one of the best. The only gearbox that comes close to a BMW DCT, in my humble opinion, is Porsche PDK. The reason why I don't mention DSG is because I think DSG robs the car of the experience of changing gear, because the only thing to indicate that you've changed gear in a DSG car is that the revs drop. There's no mechanical feeling through the car, which I think is a wee bit of a shame. So we've got DCT, that replaces the old SMG, which was flawed in many ways. I've done a video with the SMG gearbox in the last episode when I reviewed the E46 M3 with the SMG. Back in the E60 we had a gazillion settings for the gearbox. Now we've got 3. I'll let you pick what you want to call them, slow, a wee bit less slow and fast, whatever. And then round the outside we've got our button for the DSC, which we'll put in MDM mode today because otherwise the traction control will just kill the party before it even gets started. We've got our power button. Again, this isn't like the old M5 where without the power button on you only had 400 horsepower and when you pressed it you had 507. If you remember back to the Jeremy Clarkson review, he said the car's rubbish and he slated it all until he pressed the button. These cars don't operate that way. You've got a sharper throttle response and it'll make it sound a bit louder as well, but as far as I'm aware you've got the same overall output regardless of what engine setting you're in. We've got dampers. We're in comfort just now. We'll leave it in comfort because that will help aid traction over the rough grounds in the rain. And we've got steering. Now these cars have held on to the mechanical steering rack and they're all the better for it. The steering feel is quite possibly one of the most intense of any modern saloon car that I've driven. The first F10 M5 I had driven, I actually thought there was an issue with the steering because it was chattering so much, and the customer took the car back to BMW and had the system checked and it was all okay. Since then, every M5 I've driven I've recognised that that is a characteristic of the steering and it's something that you do need to get used to. There is so much of it, which is nice. Again, we'll believe in that in comfort, which I think once you start putting it up to Sports 4 Plus, it starts to give an artificial weight to the steering. So we're just about there, guys. I'm doing my usual, bring the seat up a wee touch, put the car into MDM mode, we'll stick it in manual. So we've got steering comfort, shockies in comfort, we'll turn the engine up 1 notch, because why not? At the end of the day, it's not going to make it any quicker, it will just make the throttle response a little bit sharper. So here we go. This will be an immense test for this car. If this car can go reasonably quickly without making me absolutely shit my pants in this weather we've got today, then kudos to the M5. Hope you guys can hear that engine. It's like nothing. It's hard. It's actually hard to describe. Quick direction change here. She's twitching. We are using a fair dollop of throttle there. I'm not going to talk just quite as much as normal because my eyes are on stalks at the minute. Not only are we looking out for rain, we're looking out for leaves that are falling off the trees, cars coming the other way, which I'm being very strict with my lane positioning. The steering is so direct, and the feel that you get through the steering wheel is outstanding. Brakes take a wee bit of a shove to get them working. Mr. Defender 90 just in front of us there. So yeah, so far I'm not as terrified as I thought I was going to be. If I was in a similar aged M3 or M4 just now, I would be bricking my pants. I would probably be aborting the test drive if I'm honest, because it's, guys, if you can see out this window right now, it's dreadful. Let's get on to the engine noise. Now, I believe that these cars have a certain amount of engine note pumped in through the speakers, which is a shame because the engine's got a character all of its own. Listen. Do you see what I mean? But the more you lean in the throttle, the more you can hear coming through the speakers. BMW, why? Why? We've got 4.4 litres of swept capacity, V8, 2 turbos, a sports exhaust. We do not need any electronic intervention in through the speakers. It's just not required. That's not required. Anyway, let's not moan about it. So far, if this gets much worse, I think we'll call it a day. Because I can't even fly the drone because it would get ruined immediately, or it would end up in a tree. You can see why on the internet, when you read or when you watch guys reviewing these things, they say that it is the best car for sale for the money. It's comfortable, like regular 5 Series comfortable, but yet the turn of speed in it and the steering feel is pure M. See, when you build up the boost and you let off, you get a big dump. Right, we've got a wee bit of a straight here, third gear, let's go. That's foot to the floor. Foot to the floor, in third, in the rain. Every single bit of power went down. What a car. You know, it's one of those cars that when you start to really hone in, it feels like it shrinks round about. I mean, at no point has this car reminded me through the driving experience that even, excuse me, I weigh 2 tons. I weigh 2 tons. That's a number on a bit of paper, and that is not translating into the driving experience today. It really isn't. I mean, what does it cost now to go to an F90 M5? 50 grand? More for a compact, and if you want one with a nice spec and cool colour, you'd be more again. This is like half the price. And the thing is, with the 4-wheel drive car, if you want the full fat M car experience, rear wheel drive, proper wheel drive, you need to turn the front wheel drive off, and in doing so you disengage every single drive you need in the car. Now, I am so happy that we've got 3 little amber letters on the dashboard accompanying the traction control off sign, MDM. You want to turn the new M5 into rear wheel drive, you don't get any of that. It's you, and I believe the new one starts at 600 horsepower and the rear wheels. Yeah, you can only use that car in rear wheel drive on a track. There's no way you could use that car on the road. Whereas in this thing, in these conditions, we've just used full throttle in third gear and it put it all down. This is another road test of a car that I like. As I mentioned last week, I'm going to need to get a car that I don't like, just so that you know that I am genuinely giving my honest thoughts when I'm out in a car. Let's see if I can find something that I don't like. The engine note takes some getting used to. I'm not going to lie. It's probably because it's not what you expect to come out of the back, and the thing through the speakers, if I could turn that off, that would immediately be getting deactivated. The seats are mega. They don't look like the most extreme bucket seat, but it's not a track car, so you don't need a bucket seat. The steering wheel is the same steering wheel that you'll get in a 320d M Sport, but who cares? It's an amazing steering wheel. It does everything right, it looks lovely, and it feels lovely to hold in the hands. The drivetrain there's no play. As soon as you put your toe on the throttle, that immediately goes to, there's drive goes immediately to the back wheels, and when you let off, it stops like that as well. If anybody knows what I mean about mechanical run-on, when you lift off, it feels like the car still wants to give drive to the wheels, and it makes it feel really blunt. This is like scalpel material. It makes as much noise on the way up, listen, and then you let off. This is a standard car. See that just compression there? It lifted a wee bit, but it let the revs flare. It didn't go, it didn't just wallop, kill it stone dead. They've got the configuration of that MDM mode, so nice. Blue skies coming out now, about that much. You know, we've got the gearbox in the second fastest setting, and I have no desire to make it any quicker. That's how good it is. Do you see the way the car's just flowing there? It's not crashing, it's not banging, it's not fighting against you, it's just... It's got to be one of the most rounded M cars I think I've driven. I drove an E39 M5 that we had years back. We'd done a wee bit of a mini resto on it, and I took it out expecting it to be old and fast and shite, but it wasn't. It was brilliant. And this isn't old, but it's fast. It's definitely not shite either. But it's got the same sort of rounded, usable, but utterly ballistic, but very, very... How can you be this quick and this comfortable all at the same time? What an accomplishment. Yep, guys, I think I'm out of words now. I'm out of words. The reviews online are duly, they're duly deserved. I mean, these came out in 2012, so they're not new. But when you think that the car that replaced it is something like twice the price, but I don't think it's twice the car. If you're into tech and lights through the vents and all that kind of stuff, then aye, cool, that's fine. If you can justify the extra money for it. But if you're just wanting pure driving pleasure, but without the drawbacks of it being crashy, impractical, something you can't take the kids in, something you can't use every day, then yeah, there's no downsides. Other than maybe it's a little bit discreet for some in the looks department, but if you're just wanting a tool to drive, and I mean you can drive the wheels off this thing, F10 M5 guys, solid vote from me at James Glenn. That'll do. Okay, if you haven't already, guys, if you could find it in your heart to subscribe to the channel, I would be eternally grateful. Put one of these videos out once a week. During the week there's obviously stock going up, so that gives you a wee idea of what kind of stock that we carry at the garage as well. You never know, maybe we might sell you a car, you never know. But yeah, if you could consider subscribing, that'd be amazing. There'll be a button here to do that. There'll be a button down here for the playlist with all the old car videos and stuff. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I think it's going on a wee bit longer than normal, just because there is so much to talk about in this epic M5. And thanks again for joining me on another James Glenn road test, and I will see you again next week. Cheers guys, bye bye.